Okay, welcome back. So now we're going to switch over to IntelliJ. So I'm going to jump over into IntelliJ myself, and I'm going to go up to the menu for it, File, and we can just open the project that we just downloaded, the zip file project that we just downloaded. Not the zip file, but the unzipped version of it. So I'm going up to File, Open. And I have navigated into my idea projects folder. Now, again, that's just where I put mine. You can put yours in. You may have just decided to leave it in the downloads folder for all I know. It doesn't really matter. Okay, but I put mine in the idea projects folder, and it was, what was it? PeopleDB-web. So there it is right there, PeopleDB-web, already unzipped. And so I'm going to actually jump into that folder. Okay, so now I can see the build.gradle and all of these things. Now I'm not going to select any of those. I'm not going to click on any of those. I'm just going to click open. And I'm going to open this project as a standard Gradle project. Okay, now I just got this little message asking me if I want to trust this project, and I will tell it, yeah, I want to trust all of these projects. And then I'm being asked if I want to open this up in a new window or in my existing window, which you can't see, it's off screen, but I will go ahead and say, yes, new window, please. All right, and so this new window is opening up, and you can see down here that various things were happening. Well, you might have seen that it happened pretty quickly, but it was getting the project ready. Okay, so I'm going to close this tip of the day right here, and here's our project ready to go. Okay, so the very first thing we're going to do is just start up this project. So let me explain something real briefly here, and I'll explain a little bit more later, okay? When we run a web application of this sort, we actually need a web server, okay? Which is its own application that is capable of waiting and listening for a web browser, typically, to request web content from it, okay? So we have to start up this web server, essentially. One of the beautiful things that we get for free with an application that we create in this way using the start.spring.io website or web application is that we get a web application that is based in Spring Boot, and that Spring Boot application will have essentially a web server embedded in it. So when we start our application, we're actually starting up not just the application, but a web server. I'm using a simplified term, by the way, right now. Later on, I'll get a little more specific with what we're really starting up, but basically it's a web server, okay? And so that's what we need to start up first. Now, the nice thing is that we start this up the same way we run any other application from the web browser. So I'm going to navigate to the main folder here. Oh, and I'm sorry, let me switch into presentation mode, by the way, so that you can see everything a little more easily. There we go. Yeah, now everything's nice and big and easy to see. Okay. So I'm going into source main Java, and let me make this a little bigger. And if you named everything the same way that I did, then you will have one class file here called PeopleDB Web Application, okay? That was generated for us by the start.spring.io web application, okay? So you can select that and right-click on it, and then go down to run, just as you would any other class that has a main method. In fact, I'm sorry, real quick, before we even run that, if we double click on it, you can open it up and see what it is. It's just a class that has almost no code in it whatsoever. But one of the things it does have is this public static void main method that essentially starts up our Spring application. Okay, so spring application.run, okay? So that's what you have here, okay? And so we can start this up in a number of ways. We can click the play button here, or we can right click on the class and then choose run, okay? All of those things do the exact same thing. So I'm going to just go ahead and run this now. And it has started, okay? Now what do we do? Well, we can open up a browser and try to see what we have running here, okay? So let me open up a browser. And I guess I don't need this start.spring.io page anymore, so I will go somewhere else. So I need to specify a URL that will allow me to access the web server that is now running on my computer. The way I can do that is I have to specify the address of a computer. And since this web server is running on my computer, I need to specify the address or an address for my computer. One of the most common ways to do that is to refer to your computer as something called localhost, okay? And so what we can do is simply type localhost, all one word, okay? And then we have to specify what is called a port. And I will explain these concepts shortly, okay? But you will type colon and then 8080. These are default settings, essentially, to access an application, a Spring Boot-based application, if you haven't changed any of the defaults, okay? And then I'm going to hit return. All right, now believe it or not, even though this looks like an error, this is actually not a bad thing. This is actually telling me that something is actually running on my computer. Because if I were to do this, for example, use a port that doesn't exist at all, like 9000, I get even less, okay? So localhost colon 8080 is telling me that I do actually have something listening on that port, as we would say in the business. Okay, so now let's make this not give us this white label error page, but give us something a little more useful. So I'm going to jump back over to the IDE now, and I will minimize the little console output here. And I will come down here to resources by double clicking. I'm just going to open that up. Okay, so what we're going to do is click on this static folder here, and then I'm going to right click on it, go to new, HTML file, and then we're going to give this file a name, and we will call it index.html, and then hit return. And so now the IDE has created this new file with some boilerplate HTML code in it and with the word title highlighted because the IDE is waiting for us to put our own title word in here. So let's call this something like hello. And then I will hit return. And then the cursor jumps down to line 8 in between these two body tags. These two, the space in between these body tags is where the core content of our web page is intended to go, okay? And so here, let's just type something like hello world. And so this is kind of us coming full circle now within this course. In one of the earliest lessons of this course, we created our initial command line version of a Hello World application. And now we're creating the web application equivalent of that, okay? So we've got that there. And now we will do a Command F9 on Mac or a Control F9 on Windows or Linux. And then if we jump back over to the web browser now, we can update this URL and just hit return. And look at that. We now see hello world. I'll make that a little bigger, okay? So we're not getting that error anymore, okay? And so congratulations, we've just created our first hello world web application. Not much of an application really. There's no dynamic behavior here, but it's a good start, okay? So in the next lesson, I want to talk a little bit about some of the technologies that are working here, like how is the web browser communicating with the web server? What is that web server kind of doing? How is all this fitting together before we proceed to write much more of the real application, okay? So I'll see you in the next one. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this content and you'd like to help me out, there are several ways you could do that. First, you can always click the like and subscribe. That'll help me out a lot. Additionally, another way you can help me out is to check the link in the description below. That'll link you to my website where you can find additional courses. And finally, for those of you who might be interested in starting a new career as a professional software developer, I offer a free PDF guide that will detail exactly how you can get started in this field with no college degree and no prior experience. All you need to do is click on the link in the description below. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.